Baker. Good to be with you. I am doing something a little bit different today in our time where we've all been having to stay at home a little bit more. I decided that I've been going to revamp and tidy up my room a little bit. So I have been watching lots of YouTube videos about people's organisation and people's storage solutions. And I thought, well, do you know what? Let's just post my little room. It's not a very big room, nor is it full of expensive solutions, nor is it full of amazing ideas, but there are some things that you might pick up on. You might think, oh, that's a reasonable idea, or it might just be that, like me, you've enjoyed looking through lots of organisation and craft room videos and you just enjoy having a little nose. I should say, because I'm normally behind the camera, not in front of it, thank you to all of those who have subscribed recently, and hello to lots of my subscribers who have been with me for a little while. It is really appreciated, and I do hope that you enjoy this little look around my room. So I'm going to turn the camera around now and I shall just walk you through. So where to start? Now, I'll show you the sort of back of it first. I'll have to move back. We live in an old Victorian house and the ceilings are very high. This room might not look massive, but it's a good space and it works really well for me. One of the differences between me perhaps and some of the other craft room videos that I have seen is that they tend to be, most of them focused on one particular craft. So you will tend to have paper crafters, or you will tend to have sewers or other particular artists. Now my room, just like me, is a bit of a jack of all trades. I work part-time in the craft industry, so I have to sort of straddle quite a few different types of crafting. So if it was just one simple type of craft, it would be easy to fit it all in my room, but I have tons. So if we talk about this big section here first, this is my wall. Now it used to be really horrendous, and I just gave it a good lick of paint, and my dad and my brother put up some shelves. They're very utilitarian. If I bring you in and have a look, you can see they were actually in my dad's, they were in his garage. So they're very, very sort of basic shelves. I did think about painting them and I just thought, no, do you know what, let's just get them up on the walls. Now, the advantage to this is I've got an awful lot of space because I'm using the whole expanse of the room. And that is probably one of my biggest tips, is look at the style and the layout of your room and think to yourself, how can I actually use this space most effectively? Now, just like a kitchen designer will look at the work area triangle, I have tried to include the things that I really, really need in a triangular space. So we're going down sort of here to everybody's favourite, the Raskog trolley. So my Raskog trolley used to be here, but recently I had another sewing machine, and I'll talk about that another time. So it had to be sort of relegated a little bit further back. So that's the first tip. So second tip rather. So the first one is use your space. Now, you might think, good grief, you know, why would she use all of that space up there? Because, you know, how is she going to get to it? Well, I do stand on my desk. It might be particularly ugly and not very pleasant to look at, but it is really, really steady. It's one of those sort of trestle type tables where you can fold up. I have thought about painting it. I used to have a tablecloth covering on it. And in the end, I just thought, you know what, just leave it as it is. I've got my lovely big Fiskars mat on it. Really, really useful workspace. So if any of you have got any tips about how to sort of update these types of tables, I would be all ear. Please leave me those in the comments. So what I've done is I put all the things that I need to use most on these shelves. This was a little thing that I bought from, I don't know, it was some sort of charity shop, and, you know, brown baskets, and I just painted them. I just used some of my paper artsy paints, and they paint beautifully on all sorts of different surfaces. So I've got in there so all my little bits and bobs that I will use, and I do keep having to have a cull and change them around. Now, as a stamper, I do lots of paper crafting. You'll find that I've got lots and lots of ink pads. These ones are IKEA ones. I haven't bought loads from IKEA. I would like to, but the cost does run quite high quite quickly. So all of my glues and adhesives, and then I've got bits and bobs, some ink pads, you know, some sort of craft Nouveau drops. And then I go up to the next one, which has got some of my alcohol pens. The rest of them are up there. I'm going to have a little swap round. They are up there. Can you see them? Because I need to update my alcohol pen collection, because I do quite a lot of alcohol colourings. Now you can see here, everything doesn't match. Now it does upset me slightly because I do like things to match. But at the end of the day, I am going for usefulness as opposed to spending a ton of money. If I had more money, then it would be lovely to have them all matching. And the other thing to talk about as we're on the shelves is these two machines here. Now, these are both electronic die cutting machines. I think that's the Gemini Junior, and that is my beloved Silhouette Cameo up there. Now, the only downside to open shelving is obviously dust, and electronic machines and dust don't go too well together. So these are, I'm going to probably do a video on these, really, really easy to make dust covers, and it just means it keeps everything free from dust and not getting into little crevices that might cause problems electronically. Up to the top, I've got some books. You might think that's a bit stupid, but these are really, really tough shelves. I'm going to put them down somewhere else shortly, and that's just some of my dies that I don't use very much. That there, what a mess, that needs help, but that's for another project for another day. You can see, obviously, I've got lots of ink pads. I do an awful lot of inking and stamping. And then I had a little bit in the middle where I just thought, you know, I need something nice to look at. So that I just did. Have a little look there. The frame, that little necklace booklet is something separate there. But that is just, I think the stamps from Sugar Pea Designs, and I just created the wording using my Silhouette Cameo. And there's some of my family, and there you are. Yeah. And here I've got... trying to put a place for everything. So I've got my little mini iron in there. I've got my sort of clover clips. And you'll see as I go around, there are various sewing things dotted around the place. This at the back here, you can see that, sorry to have you all looking a bit squiffy. That was a ribbon reel. And I had it and I used it for a while, and I thought actually that would be perfect for some of my other threads. The space between, that's the secret, is looking for spaces between and trying to work out how you can use them. So those are a few of my bolts. I've been making a lot of things, the patterns by Annie recently. So whereas I never realised that I needed vinyl, sorry, it's very hard to do one-handed. You got these pocket pages, absolutely brilliant pattern. If any of you fancy a challenge who are sort of beginner, intermediate sewers, the patterns by Annie are really brilliant. And this is storage that I can take out and about with me when I'm sewing. You might wonder what that is. If I show you a quick down here, we have a cat. Now this is the slight drawback to my room. I have to share it. It's not all mine. So we have a whacking great running machine, just in case the need to run overtakes me while I'm working, which it doesn't do very often. That's my running machine. And the other thing I have to share my room with is tumble dryer. So I have to make this room work on many, many levels. So that was the sort of the desk space. If I show you down here, that's the other thing that I try and use every part of your room. Now there is a load of my viscose paper punches which are going to be selectively edited very, very soon. You know, good old IKEA drawers I've got under here. I have my beloved Chula Pink stash, so I've just got some of her homemade collection, and there's others underneath there, so that's out the way because I don't want the sunlight getting to that. And under here, this was it wasn't craft storage at all, but what I needed to have is a way of storing larger things that wouldn't necessarily fit as easily into my little bookshelf, but that I'm going to use a lot. So I have my Tim Holtz Tonic stamp positioner, my little, what's that? That's my pressing mat. I've got my scoring tool, a lot of my A4 things like my 12 by 12 cardstocks, they're all in here. So it just means that I've got a place for everything. That's just, sorry, that's my little scrap bag of all cardstock scraps. And then I've got my favourite trimmer. If you're doing a lot of trimming and cutting and you want something that is going to really stand the test of time, this will take up to 1200 GSM. Double track, it's called the, why has the name just escaped me? It's Fiskars Precision, that's it. So that is my go-to cutter. It will cut all sorts of things. And you can see right at the back, I just covered that yesterday. It was my little Prim ironing board and it was looking like it had seen better days. So I decided with some beautiful Jane Austen fabric, I think it was it Riley Blake fabric? So I've given it a bit of a makeover last night. So in all this time where we've had a bit of time to ourselves, I've been utilising it to do all those little jobs that I couldn't get around to doing. Some of my larger quilting rulers down there because they need to stand upright. And then, right, if I come around, we'll come around this side. So here we have all of the cardstock that I have. The middle ones here, these are my envelope drawers. That needs a bit of a tidy. Normally I would take them out of the plastic packaging, but because it's open and I just don't want too much dust on my cardstock, so that's why I have done that. I have to say, I think I'm about to break this. The sides are bulging. Cardstock is super heavy, so that might be a solution that I need to sort of reconsider. At the top, I've just got some little bits of fabric and fat quarters, and this big boy in the corner is what I affectionately call my cupboard of doom. Now, it's not completely sorted. It does need sorting, but if I show you, it could do with lights in, really. If I stand back, these are all the miscellaneous stuff. There is order in here, believe it or not. That middle basket there is all works, stuff that I need to do, or invoices that need filing. So you can actually see my little chocolate stash from Easter at the back there, where it's hidden from the kids. Here we have one of my favourite companies is Papercrafting. And their paints are second to none. If you want absolutely amazing paints, these are their frescoes. They're chalk acrylics. They come in translucent, semi-opaques and opaques, and they go on nearly any surface, and they are absolutely amazing paints. Very heavily pigmented. They're just beautiful to work with. They dry really quickly. So that, you can see, is just a few bottles of my paint. And then I've just got various things. I do bag making, and that's another tip, is label everything. Everything in here isn't quite labelled, but you can see I've just used the labelling machines, and I know when I come in whether I want my bag findings or I want my earring making, or whether it's just school supplies. Everything up here is labelled. So it might look like a complete mess, but I know where everything is. And on here I've just put some adhesive sheets. This was an old IKEA. I think it was in Bargain Corner. This whole cupboard wasn't that expensive. So I've just put some magnetic sheets on here. So all of my most used dyes, these are mostly Tonic Studio dyes. They're all there, so it means that I can get hold of them. And yeah, I have to put cat food in there as well. Slightly bizarre, I know. So that is my cupboard of doom. And underneath is pretty much the same. There's just more fabric stuff, some paper collections. So that is that. So onto this side. Now, this is probably one of my favourite parts of my craft room. My lovely fabric stash. Now, that is most of it. It's not quite all of it, which I'll show you in a minute. When this was built, this house, it is very well built, so that is actually an awful lot of fabric weight wise, so just be careful if you are putting fabric on there, because you'll find that your your shelves may sag a little. So I have folded these using the comic board method. So if I take one of these down, you can see in here, inside there's a little comic board, which are, they're acid free. So it means that they're a great thing to fold your fabric around. And I've done it by rainbow order. There you go. So it means that I can see at a glance what I actually need. And you can see on the next shelf, these are just some of the things that I've been making. Now this looks slightly bizarre. There's a reason why this is here. This needs painting, so this is another to do. But if I remove this, there, I fell and put my hand through the middle and broke it. So that is just hiding the hole. So this needs painting and repairing. My Raskog trolley has a variety of things, mostly paper crafting things, so they're all on the top. And then there are these infusions, which are a paper artsy product. There are dyes that are water activated. Then I've just got various things down to sort of my electronic supplies. One of my favourite ever things, if you're a sewer, get yourself one of these. I'm going to be doing a video shortly on the 20 things that sewers would like for gifts or need, and this is one of them. This is a clapper, absolutely fabulous tool. So then we're on to the slightly less organised part of things, and these are all sewing related. So if any of you have got any great ideas, then please give me a shout. I do a lot of upcycling, so that is why we've got a random collection of jeans. So I'll go to my local charity shop, pick up jeans, and I use them in upcycled projects. Along with down here, you can also see shirts. So I often use those for lining bags or sort of pouches. This here is, I think this is, I've forgotten which brand these are. They're beautiful. I think they're the art gallery. I forgot the brand. It'll come back to me in a minute. So that's for a project I'm about to start. And this here is the unglamorous but really, really necessary part of sewing. It's all of the interlinings, it's all of the fusible interfacings, and you name it. And you'll see a lot of these are from my other, I say other, I've got quite a lot of favourite companies. Vlizelina. I adore this. Now, most people would think, well, why are you showing us this? Because, as I was saying to one of the people who I was trying to explain what I do, I said, you know, interlining, fusing, fusible, interfacing, you name it, they are like really good in underwear. If you are wearing it, you can conquer the world. And it very much like this, if you have got decent things that are the sort of shoring up your projects, then your projects are going to look really, really good quality and professional. And the reason why I have a random selection of light shades is I'm about to upcycle those using some scrap fabrics. So if I spin you round, there you go. The other part of my craft room is storing a lot of the stuff that I have to use for work. I say have to, I love using them. So I've got a lot of my stamps from Paper Artsy, from Tonic Studios, and this, you might wonder what I've got here. That is a load of fake flowers in a vase, and the reason I've got those there, it was actually a slight, it just happened. It was just an accidental thing. I use all of those with my photos. So if I'm staging photographs, I will often use the flowers or the foliage. And I needed somewhere to store them all. They were just shoved down the side of somewhere. And I put them in a vase just because the vase was there. And I thought, actually, that looks quite nice. So those are my staging bits. And if I take you through, that's actually out there into the hall. That is a shoe rack, and that is storing some of my vintage fabrics and mesh and bits and bobs. So the craft room does spill out slightly into that space. But if I hadn't got this whacking great running machine, then I imagine the space that I would have. There I've just got a little bit of bunting. So that is my craft space. Oh, and the last cupboard, which I should, this needs to sort out. There you are. So that's got a lot of stuff that I have been using that I need to put on eBay and sell. And then I've got a couple of drawers down here. These were built in, these were part of the room. So again, these sorts of things, just put things in that you're not going to really have or need much access to. Because you're going to be kicking yourself if you're constantly having to try and pull out slightly awkward drawers like that. And the reason that I can't get to them is because of this beauty, but that is another video for another time. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I mean, as I say, nothing earth-shattering. You know, if I had more money, I would probably splurge on buying things so I didn't have things like this, because that is actually, it doesn't look very organised. Although it is organised, it does look a bit messy, and it would be lovely to have those covered in a box. And I might have a look for some storage. But this works really well. The fairy lights actually were up from Christmas, and I love them so much. They stayed there. The pegboard, I forgot to mention about my pegboard. They aren't all my scissors. Some of my scissors are actually on holiday. One of the guys who I do the shows with, he's got all the rest of my scissors. Those flowers were just, when I did the backdrop and I painted the wall, I just wanted something a little bit less sort of functional. So I just put those together. I just freehand drew those and used an awful lot of hot glue. So that's just giving you an idea, and that's where my glasses stay, because I'm always forgetting my glasses. So I hope you've enjoyed this. As I say, nothing earth-shattering. It just might give you some ideas. My main tip, if you are looking at trying to sort out your craft room, is think about what you need, what you use most often, and what you want to use on a regular basis, and have that to hand as much as possible. Thank you for being with me. I would love to know what you think. If you've got any amazing ideas for me, please leave them in the comments, and I shall be back soon with a video especially for the sewers amongst us. Thanks for being with me. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Take care then. Bye.